MrBeast built over 100 wells in Africa, and some people on the internet still freaked out.
There's controversy right now with MrBeast because he built 100 wells in Africa, and a lot of people feel some type of way, some positive, some negative. You know what they say, no good deed goes unpunished. So
now, if you guys don't know this, and I know this because I'll probably do something again this year. I've worked with Charity Water a lot. Building sustainable water filtration systems, i.e. wells that can generate water for villages that don't have clean drinking water, is by far one of the best ROIs for any community that doesn't have clean drinking water. Not only does it not force young people and kids and women to walk hours, sometimes days, to somewhere to get clean water, but it also it buys back their time. It gets them into school and gets them educated, and it also is huge for the ability for agriculture and for people to start developing self-sustaining communities. By far, one of the best things we could do is get clean water to as much of the world as possible. And again, an organization I work with, Charity Water, I think we're going to do it again. I'm turning 39 this year, so I think I'm going to donate my birthday. And for like $10,000 to $12,000, and we've done this before, we've raised this much, you can build an entire well water filtration system in a part of the world that needs this. Not just Africa, it's South America, it's parts of Asia. They do a great job with this sort of stuff, right? And so yes, it is actually clean. And Charity Water, 100% of what goes into Charity Water actually goes towards the work on the ground, meaning there's no administration fee. They have a separate fund for the money that gets raised. So this is like, in terms of bringing flourishing and alleviating suffering and helping people come out of poverty, this is by far one of the best investments you can make in any community, okay?
With that being said,
because the story isn't that MrBeast is a Nostradamus, right? It's just based off of historical data. This was going to happen. He puts out a video where people can't hear or they see, and he's like, hey, I'm MrBeast. I fixed it. Boom. Well, that's largely got him a lot of praise. Different people going, yeah, f that guy. It's just, performance activism. He's just trying to look like a good guy. This is part of the business. Also,
I think this is people who have a false binary that you can't make content, help people, and make money at the same time. It's people that see the world in a zero-sum game, meaning they see that if something good is happening, it means that something bad is happening. If you are helping people and making content and making money around said content and God forbid making a profit, that is exploitive somehow. If this is how you see the world, you really gotta get rid of the brainworms.
I'm going to disregard that lots of people's lives are made better because I'm angry. Granted, it would make sense if it was at the system and the world, but I'm also going to direct it towards Jimmy, MrBeast. That guy. And so when he released his new video, I built 100 wells in Africa, he kind of knew what was going to come. And in that video, he goes to Kenya, Zimbabwe, and other countries to install wells to give people drinking water. Also notably speaking to the local communities, giving their schools new equipment. MrBeast closing his video by encouraging people to donate to the Water Is Life campaign at Beast Philanthropy.
I know it's weird that a YouTuber has to do all this stuff, but someone's got to do it. And if no one else is, we're going to do it. As you can tell, it really does change the lives of the communities where we build them.
And so with that, as expected, he got a lot of praise for doing that. People applauding him for helping so many people using his platform and money for good. But as he predicted, he got some back.
Hey, big shout out to MrBeast for doing this. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. We need more people doing it. We need more people who are content creators, leveraging their influence, leveraging their status, leveraging their power, leveraging their wealth to do stuff like this and bring awareness to stuff. So big props to MrBeast for doing this sort of stuff.
Backlash, with some saying that he was exploiting vulnerable communities for content, or some accusing him of being a so-called white savior and arguing he's tackily packaging a myth, mostly to children, that Africans are helpless, featureless subject of his kindness, that Africa can only be helped by a white celebrity who's amassed immense wealth first.
how long?
As if it has to be somebody of the same race to help that race. Like this is how asinine this paradigm is. And Abba and Preach are about to just really go in on this. Listen what they have to say.
Do you think these communities have been underserved in regards to this movement?
Come on.
If someone else was going to do it, why haven't they done it?
Yep.
How long do these people have to keep suffering before someone handles their shit?
Come
While
on.
you guys were up here virtue signaling on Twitter talking about, this is how it should be done. Somebody actually just went over there and said, I'm going to do it, and they did it.
Come on.
No, but the thing
And guess you know who's never complaining about this? The ones being helped.
That's right.
sometimes I feel like a lot of people feel like it needs to be helped like Hollywood. Okay, so the person helping, it's African, so it cannot be white, right? And then that's white savior. So for it to be picture perfect, it has to be a black person that left the community and came back and did a lot of wealth by all those things that you're stating in that thing. The fact that he's a celebrity, helping children, the fact that he saves people, can all exist without having malicious intent.
I don't even think these people think he has malicious intent. I think they're just saying he's being harmful. Because basically...
And that's crazy. So there's a difference between saying, hey, so-and-so is doing this for clout, and they have malicious intent, which you don't really know people's intent. But it's a different thing to say they're being harmful, right? They're being dangerous. They're being harmful. Like that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Was perpetuating stereotypes. But I'm like, I don't give a what perpetuating stereotypes he's doing. If he gives me the ability to see, I'm happy. None of you motherfuckers on Twitter were going to give me the ability to see.
They're not going to do it.
My government wasn't going to do it. So this man, out of the kindness of his heart, maybe for different reasons, I don't actually care. I just want to see with my eyes again.
What I'm
I don't actually care. Most people, when they're getting help, don't really care where the help is coming from or why the help is there. They're just pumped that they got help.
I want my kids to have clean drinking water because nobody else seems to give a Like, I think people forget that aspect of it and they just want to talk about optics. Optics is for people who are privileged.
Woo! Optics are for people who are privileged.
When you don't have water to drink, you don't have the luxury to care about optics.
You just don't have water.
Like, I don't think people understand what it's like to live in communities with no clean water. It affects your clothes. It affects the kind of things that go onto your body and inside your body. Like, what do you think the life expectancy is of these kids if they don't get access to water? What do you think their ability to go to school and learn is if they constantly have diseases that they're dealing with on the inside? It's not just water that goes to feed them. How do you give birth to new kids without clean water to disinfect everything? How do you do anything from a medicinal standpoint if you don't have clean water in your community to do anything?
It's normal that they take it for granted. We should in clean water.
That's crazy when you really think about it. The water that we drop deuces in is cleaner than, I want to say 200 million people have access to. Let that sink in for a little bit. You complaining about your first world problems.
That's all. You know what I mean? Like,
That thing that you in,
it's clean water.
people all over the world wish they could drink out of.
Well, of course, online, everyone sounds off on things. We actually saw some activists agreeing with parts of the criticism. With, for example, in a CNN report, them pointing to one aspiring Kenyan politician who accused MrBeast of playing into a stereotype.
You can never win. Because those same people are the same people that are going to talk about Bezos not doing anything with his money. And if he would have done something with his money, he would have been a white savior. Like, you can never win. You can never win. With all this money, you could...
Yeah. Rich people are bad. They should give all their money away. And then they do. And then rich people are bad. They gave all their money away, huh? Wait, what? That doesn't make no sense.
Do something. The guy with a lot of money does something, and he's a white savior.
So in addition to that, CNN talked to the founder and CEO of the water infrastructure organization Face Africa, who said, "I've been doing this for 15 years, but we've been struggling to continue the work because funding, awareness, and advocacy all take work." And adding, overnight, this person comes along who happens to be a white male figure with a huge platform, and all of a sudden, he gets all of the attention. It's kind of frustrating, but it's also understanding the nature of how the world is. And with that saying, it was good that MrBeast installed these wells, but also adding that doing it sustainably is what matters. By arguing that it's one thing to install wells and another to actually have them work in 5 years from now. With their organization Face also going on to explain so much more of the wider context.
I can understand her frustration.
Yeah, I get her frustration, but I think you should examine if he did them sustainably. And then I think you should say, hey, thank you. This is good. You did something good. You leveraged your platform and your wealth to do something good.
Yeah. Like, if you're trying to make something happen off the ground, it's hard to get pennies. You see this dude coming with all this money, and he's fixing it on such a larger scale you could ever imagine. It's like, bro, I got to ask for grants. I got to fight for every dollar. And all of a sudden, this dude come out of nowhere. I can understand your ego being hurt by that. But at the end of the day, you got to put that aside because it's not about you. It's about the people you serve.
Exactly.
Your
point was to give people water, not the fact that you gave people water.
Yep.
That's what you wanted.
And here's the truth about a lot of these NGOs. A lot of them go to do this, and they do this in ways that are not sustainable. They
do this in ways that are not sustainable.
This in ways that require the NGO to constantly be present in order to make sure that the well keeps functioning. So what ends up happening is that the NGOs ensures itself that the government has to keep funding it. But if the government doesn't, then the people are stranded because the NGOs are the only ones who have actually the ability to fix those wells. So I like the idea of what MrBeast did because he created a long-term sustainability plan, and he also made sure that these things could be maintained long-term. Now, if it turns out that's not the case, then I have no issue with people taking criticism.
Then yes, then you can criticize.
But my understanding is that is what he did. Okay, and that's the case with most of the stuff. From what I've seen, I've never seen this man try to be charitable in a way that isn't thinking about the long-term effects of it, right? He doesn't seem like he just wants to hand people a bunch of crackheads a bunch of money and be like, well, we donated. No.
Let's see where that goes.
Right.
Most of the stuff he does, it seems like he follows through on it, and he really tries to make sure that they last for a long time. So for that reason alone, I have to show him some respect because I know what it's like to live in those communities. I know what it's like to see those communities. I know what it's like to walk through those places on a regular basis. It ain't pretty. So I could never, in my heart of hearts, fault him for that because I know all those people are just so happy. He didn't just do that. He built bridges in the video. He took time to really talk to the communities. And I just thought, for me, I've seen what activism looks like when it's empty, when it's empty calories just for your own self-adulation. And I've seen what it's like when it's meant to be impactful. And I think as long as you're really thinking through how you're going to help these people, I have no problem. I don't care if it's purple, white, blue, pink, rainbow-colored motherfucker. I don't give a fuck who it is. They want to go and help. I encourage them to help.
Come on.
Just make sure you're doing it properly. That's all that matters.
That's right.
That's it.
all those so-called companies or organizations that's supposed to help people that go there, let's say, oh, we're going to build schools. So they get a whole bunch of white girls to go build schools over there. And the next day they undo the school or the wall to have more people to come back to pay money. And that's what I'm talking about by malicious intent. He doesn't have that. You understand what I'm saying? He just helps it and gets the out. But no, it's not the picture perfect thing that you want. Your Hollywood picture perfect winning thing that you want, your scenario that you want. So that's what I was talking about and referring to.
The consequences that come from not having access to water, right? Because beyond causing serious illness, it prevents children from getting an education because they need to help with water retrieval. This is something that disproportionately impacts girls and women as they're seen as the ones in charge of managing water and cooking and cleaning, with Face's website adding. The lost number of potential school days in education hinders the next generation of African women from breaking out of the cycle of unequal opportunity for gainful employment.
Because, and I said this at the beginning of the stream. I didn't even know that they mentioned this. Because of the water scarcity issue, how many people are struggling to get a basic education?
Nearby, women are free to pursue new economic opportunities and improve their families' lives. Also, in the situation, you have others arguing that this whole controversy highlights far more than just the issues with water in African countries, right? Some pointing to larger issues with income inequality. And understandably, while a number of places have this issue, a lot of the focus was on Kenya, as that's where a lot of MrBeast's video took place. And actually, with that, CNN pointed to a Kenyan activist who suggested that MrBeast's video brought shame to the country.
We are a shameful, horrible country. Every 5 years, we give newly elected members of parliament and senators a SH5 million car grant. Fuel those cars every month, but we have no money to drill boreholes for our people. We are a begging nation governed by multimillionaires. We are a begging nation governed by multimillionaires. That is so sad.
They're saying leaders get grants for cars, but somehow there's no money to drill more holes or wells so people can have drinking water. And actually, to dive into that, you had Reuters doing a report back in 2018 noting that while Kenya's economy had grown roughly 5% annually over the last decade, it has not been equally distributed and has made the gap between the rich and the poor wider. And this is a small minority of Kenyans receive the wealth, and it's not trickled down.
That has nothing to do with MrBeast. That's not MrBeast. That's a whole other problem with other people's doing those issues. Yeah, it brought light to some of the people that are not helping and everything and stuff, despite the growth that they're doing. So if you tackle that and you say, yo, you point at the government that should be helping them and are not, yeah.
Let me see if I can find this. This is crazy. Hold on. Give me 1 second. When I was at the art conference, there's a young lady that I heard speak, and they were talking about the sustainability of the environment, and she dropped a bombshell.
When you're saying we have to develop better technologies, I think people are already working better technologies.
So this is specifically about technology and climate and all that kind of stuff, right? So listen to what she says.
I think the bigger problem right now is you have a big subset, or at least very loud subset of a population that's not willing to hear, and they have really real consequences. Your country is there because of people who speak like that and think that way. So I think the time has really come for us to try and hold their feet up to the fire. I feel like we've been fighting this the wrong way. We've been trying to fight this with rationality where there is no rationality responding in front. So they have been leading the way with emotions. We can lead with greater emotion, because I have yet to see someone who's telling me, I believe the earth is going to go to hell in 12 years, and yet tell me, if I say, okay, let's say it's going to go to hell in 12 years, we have 1 to 2 million women in Africa. These are among the most vulnerable of us, who are dying every single year. The world is going to hell in 12 years. You're saying we stop everything now. So multiply 1 to 2, multiply by 12. You're telling me that you're okay with 12 to 24 million African women dying right now, so that we can supposedly avoid that. Do you want to sign your name at the bottom? If you do,
Amen,
tell me. And if you don't, then it means we have to rethink our energy mix. I have yet to find a person who says, sign me up. While Bjorn works on what he works on, I'm going to keep on the crusade of really holding their feet up to the fire, knowing that when push comes to shove, none of them has anything to say, and it's actually forcing people to take a step back and rethink. So while you work on all the technology part, we are going to work on, I'm not ashamed of causing shame in the name of good. So they have to know what's going on, and this can't go on. So I'll keep crusading, you keep doing the technology part.
I think this.
I also say, leave us alone. The West can do, you can go to whatever path you are putting yourself on, but don't come and tell me what to do with my energy, my resources, and I don't care about your $100 billion of so-called climate aid when you're giving me $100 billion in aid, asking me to sit on $12 trillion worth of oil and gas that's sitting under my soil.
We need technological sustainability. Africa, and she's saying, look, like, y'all could do all of that in the West if we don't get gas and oil and dirty energy. She said 10 to 20 million African women are going to die. We're going to utilize this $12 trillion of oil and natural gas that's underneath Africa. Don't be telling me about solar panels and all this other stuff when we're sitting on $12 trillion of oil underneath Africa, or in her country, I think she's from Senegal. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think people miss, is like there has to be a degree of like, yes, sustainable, technological, all these sorts of things, but at the same time, you're hurting these countries from developing and pulling people out of poverty. So we could talk about the potential apocalyptic scenario of the world ending in 2030, or we could see people pulled out of poverty right now. And then hopefully the technological advancements happen fast enough where we can mitigate some of that.
Yeah, infrastructure in Africa is like probably one of the largest things holding the development of the country back. You still have so many parts of Africa, even like growing economies that are like, we're talking about dirt roads, places that are not efficient, the way they build the roads around mountainsides rather than going through tunnels because they can't afford to. And then like inefficient roads make blockades very common, so it's very easy for trade routes to be blocked off. Africa in general has a lot of infrastructure issues. What makes it even worse is a lot of contractors are just thieves, straight up.
Jeez. And I sat down with my brother Remy, we talked about this, and his dad was a Nigerian king of sorts, basically, and he just talked about all the corruption, and he said it's not because of imperialism or the West, it's a lot of corruption that happens. This is somebody that's Nigerian, like born in Nigeria, you know.
They get government contracts, they sit on the work, they go very slowly to ensure that they can accumulate the maximum amount of wealth, and because they have a monopoly on this shit, they slow it down as much as they can. You know, a lot of the things holding back Africa and Africans in general are greedy elites. That's just what it is. That's not a myth. That's not something I made up. That's something that's well documented. It is a fact. Go ahead, see where the money goes when it goes to local governments. You have too many people in positions of power that are just lining their pockets.
Sheesh.
So how am I going to get mad at MrBeast? Y'all motherfuckers want to talk about stereotypes. Brother, those stereotypes are not lies. That whole idea about elites being corrupt, that's not lies.
Got a little sense of
How many times are we having government turnovers? How many times are we having uprisings in a lot of African nations because people want to topple the government that's just making deals with foreign governments to enrich themselves at the expense of their own people?
Whoa,
Don't
he going in. You know, if he wasn't African himself, he wouldn't be allowed to talk like this. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna go ahead and let Abba riff and not say anything.
pretend like these stereotypes are not there. Meanwhile, it's ordinary people who suffer. So am I going to get mad at MrBeast who thinks about them before
Come
you?
on.
Or the elites? Or the ones who can even afford to have a Twitter account? Think about it. Most of these people who are being served are people who don't even have access to something like a Twitter account. Damn. You think they got money for data to be on Twitter? I just wanted to be able to say these parts. I think his advocacy work is great. I've never met the man, but at the end of the day, anybody who gives people the ability to see again. The blind video is probably the one that's always going to hit home for me, because I'm just like, living life in darkness is so scary. And the idea that this man gave people the ability to see, like, that to me is like incredibly touching.
I'm sad that the church isn't known, even though we're doing a lot of this, I'm sad that we're not known more for doing this sorts of stuff. I think we should be known more by these sorts of works, because we're known by a lot of goofy stuff too. And so that would be my thing, is like, hey, like let's really dig into Matthew chapter 25 and the parable of the talents, and those of us who are able should be being the hands and feet of Jesus and being generous.
I think on YouTube, where I see so much bullshit all the time, and hey, listen, I probably play a part and cover it. I think it's just heartwarming to see that.
Imagine someone is giving your mom the ability to see, and then you're like, oh yeah, thank you for my moms, but you're really doing that for the wrong reason, and you're being a white savior.
No. You listen, I know you just give my mom the ability to see, but you're a white male.
Yeah.
Listen, I know that you gave my kids clean drinking water, which will help them succeed and flourish in school and have proper development as human beings. But you're a white male.
Oh.
You are the patriarchy.
There's always people that don't have nothing.
So I need you to apologize for saving my family.
For your privilege.
And then I need you to undo the will. Take it and go.
Shout out to Abba and Preach, man. Great breakdown, great analysis. Amazing. We're going to do something as a community here in the coming weeks. I got a birthday coming up, and I really want to get us on board to do something to help people. So stay tuned for that. We see, according to the Bible, that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used for my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.